Hi, everyone. We are so excited to go live today to tell you what is happening here in Washington, D.C. We want to bring you important information on what is going on inside of our government and what Eagle Forum is doing about it. So, since this is our very first Facebook Live, let's do introductions. Kirsten, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hey everyone, I'm Kirsten. I'm our executive director here in DC. I've been with Eagle Forum for a little bit over a year, and I work closely with Tabitha. Between the two of us, we track what's going on in DC, and we make sure that you're informed. My favorite part about working for Eagle Forum is that I get to work on Capitol Hill, and doing so, no day is the same because that's just the nature of the DC beast. Other than that, I also love to write, and I get to do a lot of writing.
Awesome. I just love working with Kirsten. We make a really good team. I have worked with Eagle Forum for a couple of years now, and I delve in a little bit on the issues, but I get to do some really cool stuff like do efforts on the Republican platform this year and work on endorsements of candidates. But one of my favorite things about working for Eagle Forum is that they just let you be so creative. Like I have a lot of freedom to really find my niche and find the things I love. And so if I want to make a meme, I can make a meme. If I want to help host our podcast, I can do that too. We have a podcast called Engage with Eagle Forum, so check that out when you have a moment. But it's just a wonderful thing to work for Eagle Forum, and I know Kirsten and I, as moms, have a lot of freedom to raise our children and also be in the workforce. Mm-hmm. So before we get into the issues that we've worked on this week, we just want to do something a little fun. We want to show you our mugs. So mine, I used to live in West Virginia. I was born and raised there. And then before moving to DC, I lived in Charleston, West Virginia, and it's very artsy there. So this was made by a local artist, and I have two cats, so thus the cat theme. But I just thought it was cute because it represents my family. It's my husband and me, and then our little boy on the back. So I just wanted to show you guys.
Well, mine's a little different. It's some Scandinavian dollar horses. I am Scandinavian, and I got a lot of Swedish pottery when I got married. So this is just one of the sets. I also have collected a couple pieces from my grandmothers who are no longer with us, but it's just been fun to celebrate that. Yeah. Through my coffee.
Exactly. All right. Let's get into the issues. Kirsten, you want to start off?
All righty. Yeah, I can. So this past Friday, almost a week ago, the president signed into law an extension of the Paycheck Protection Program, which, if you remember, they give small business loans to businesses so that they can stay afloat throughout this epidemic and the stay-at-home orders. The program initially was allocated $349 billion. $349 billion. It's a lot of money. And it ran out in just 13 days. So the government gave them an additional $310 billion. There was about $30 billion for community lenders, small business, and credit unions. We had a win in this negotiation process because there had been rumors that they were going to try to fund programs that are funded through the Violence Against Women Act, or VAWA. So we at Eagle Forum think that VAWA deserves more time at being negotiated and reconsidered than a rush through coronavirus bill. And so we're glad that didn't happen. We sent out an action alert on that, a legislative action alert. And so thank you if you helped us with that effort in contacting your representative and telling them that VAWA had no place in the coronavirus bill. Lastly, there is going to be another CARES Act. It's looking like it'll be called CARES 2, or like I like to say, CARES 2.0. But the House of Representatives hasn't been in session here in D.C. So Tabitha will touch a little bit on that and the issues that arise from that. But the House Majority Leader on the Democratic side, Steny Hoyer, said that even though they're gone, they're hoping to get something available to be voted on soon. So I don't know how that's going to happen, but we'll be monitoring it. So please make sure you're signed up to receive our Eagle Forum action alert so that you can be part of that discussion.
Yeah. This is super important, especially during this time of the pandemic and quarantine. These bills pass so fast that we don't even have time to go through them completely. And so it's frustrating that when they are here in session that they aren't doing their due diligence in telling the public what's in these bills. But we are going through them and we're getting a lot of information to send out to you. So the issue with members of Congress not being in, they are trying to work on what's called proxy voting. And proxy voting is when members of Congress are not here in DC physically, but they choose another member of Congress to vote for them. Currently, the House rules stipulate that that's not possible, but they want to change the House rules to make it possible. And so it sounds good in theory, like, well, there's a pandemic going on, we don't want them here getting sick, but there's a lot of issues that arise from that. And when they have been in session, they have taken extreme precautions. They've done social distancing. They've voted in groups where not everyone comes down to the floor to vote at a time, and that's really staved off any sickness or illness. Any member who not only has shown symptoms but has merely come into contact with someone who's shown symptoms, they've quarantined for 14 days. And so it hasn't spread like wildfire in Congress. And plus all of their staff members, I would say, the majority of them are working from home. So they've done everything they need to keep from getting sick. With proxy voting, right now, to have a quorum in the House, you have to have a two-thirds of Congress together to pass any kind of legislation. The Constitution mandates that. Well, when you have proxy voting, you can have one person voting for any number of people. So the actual number of people who are there on the House floor could be 5, could be 100, it could be any number. And that means that your representative is giving up his duties and his right for someone else to vote for them. And they can choose anyone. Say you're from Texas, and your representative decides not to come in. They could choose a representative from New York or a representative from California who may not have the same interests as you, but they're casting a vote for you. Mm-hmm. That also means that your representative is negotiating with that member of Congress to get their vote counted. And so not all your voice in the matter is no longer a priority. They're negotiating with this other member, and that member could say, well, I'll vote for you as long as you vote for my bill, or you don't vote for this other bill. And so there is a lot of technicalities, a lot of political issues that can be wound up in just this issue of proxy voting. So we sent a letter to House leadership last week whenever they were planning to have a vote on this. Pelosi then, shortly after, said, we're not going to have a vote. We don't have enough votes to pass this, but we're going to create a bipartisan task force to look into it. There are 3 Republicans on that task force. It's Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, Representative Tom Cole, who is the ranking member of the House Rules Committee, who's very important, has a big stake in this, and then Representative Rodney Davis from Illinois. So we will be targeting them in the upcoming weeks to make sure that they are armed with the facts about proxy voting and they can make a good decision. It's a very technical, in the weeds issue that isn't, very popular, but could have major effects for the rest of voting throughout the year, if not longer. It could end up being a permanent fix. So we will keep you informed. We'll send you emails when we send out alerts to them.
I forgot to mention one thing. Another thing that we did this week was that we sent out a coalition letter. I should say we joined in on a coalition letter with a few other conservative organizations based here in D.C. Just supporting the House Representatives Republican Study Committee and their effort to encourage House leadership to ensure that there are monetary offsets to the money that has been spent in future supplementals. So we are talking trillions and billions of dollars here. It is so important that our representatives and our senators are being good stewards of our taxpayer money. So we sure hope that this happens, and we'll be monitoring that.
Absolutely. All right, and one additional issue. Last week, President Trump signed an executive order that lasts 60 days. And it is not to ban immigration as a whole, but to put a pause on chain migration and the diversity visa lottery. These are programs within our immigration law that expands immigration to members outside of the nuclear family. So aunts, uncles, cousins, people who are brought over just because they have a family member living here. This is a good effort in an attempt to open up jobs for Americans who may be employed during this time. However, it could have went much further. We have a lot of temporary seasonal workers who come over. We bring over 1 million workers on visas every year to work these jobs. And, in a time during a pandemic, when a lot of travel is banned, it's really surprising that we are still bringing immigrants from other countries to come and work jobs that our American people can work themselves. And so, just recently, unemployment rose to over 20%, and that's huge. And then, of course, we're getting stimulus checks from the government, but it's not enough to cover months and months of unemployment costs.
I think 3.8 million people was announced today.
Yeah, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So we could really loosen up a lot of these immigration efforts to allow for American workers to work jobs while they're unemployed. So there are efforts among Republicans in Congress to extend the executive order past the 60 days, but not only that, but to expand the executive order to go towards these categories of seasonal and temporary and agricultural workers. So we've seen a lot of good things from the House floor, members writing letters, sending tweets, asking the president to do these things. And so I think we'll see a lot more of that roll out in the upcoming weeks. It's 60 days, which seems, far from now, but things roll out really quickly. And so we want people to do a lot more messaging on this. We want a lot of people tweeting at the president and supporting the Republicans who are calling for an opening of American jobs. But we will keep a close eye out on that, and we will keep you informed of what rolls out in the upcoming weeks.
Yeah, and if you want, go ahead and like or love this post so we know that you're joining us, and drop us a note of what you want to learn more about so that we know when we're coming up with next week's plan what we should talk about. We'd love to hear your thoughts and suggestions.
Mm-hmm. Like Kirsten said, we send around a weekly Capitol Hill report right to your inbox. So you can sign up that at our website at eagleforum.org. We have a lot of resources there. We will post resources in our comment section. And like she said, if you have a question, we would be happy to answer that in the comment section as well. So don't forget to follow us on Facebook so you don't miss next week's Facebook Live, Thursdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. So we will see you next Thursday.
Bye everyone.
Bye.